Looked very well prepared earlier on, Gary Wilson, for his first match. And it was a very accomplished and swift performance that took him through. So, Carl, how do you assess the challenge facing Gary Wilson here?
Not an easy task, of course. Aranas, one of the top young guns from the Philippines, and whenever we see that Filipino flag next to a pool player, you know they can play the game. But Gary's been playing a little bit. Obviously, he played at the UK Open, played at the Scottish Open also. So things are going to become a little more familiar. He's got a new cue as well that he's brought this week, that he's had made.
Yeah, I was talking to him about it earlier, and it sounds like it's still basically a snooker cue, similar to what he was using at the UK Open, but a little closer to what might be suited for pool. Different tip size as well. He felt that was an issue for him at the copper box. On the evidence of how he played earlier today, he's made a good selection with his new equipment.
Yeah, that seemed to be the obvious shot. The only danger with that is you're leaving a jump shot. Don't think it passes the green 6, so I think James is just making a good contact, maybe trying to leave some sort of distance. Yeah, that's what it looked like. Didn't seem to be much value there. Okay, so first real chance goes to Mr. Wilson. And it's the first real chance where it's a mistake. That is a poor miss. He will not be happy with that.
Well, this is about as easy a ball as you will see missed in the entire tournament. What a gift to James Aranas in the opening rack. He will be seething in his chair over that. Sets such high standards for himself and everything that he does, Gary Wilson.
Aranas is a little shy of pace here, so he's left himself one of these little thin ones. Of course, 9 balls a game where you always have to go for the lowest ball, and as we've just seen there from Gary, if you miss the lowest ball, usually you leave it on. So now, because James lost position off the first shot, he's now caught the 9 ball and he's left himself a tester here. I believe he's going to pot this and try and stun the cue ball into the brown 7 full. This could go wrong. He's hit that well though. Hit that very well. This was actually a horrible shot looking at the overhead. James will know this type of thing in a game of pool, in a race to 9 or whatever race you're playing really. These hurt your opponent, and as you just said, Michael, Gary prides himself in performing well no matter what cue sport he's having a go at. He'll be sat there seething.
Aranas looking confident. So, dreadful miss from Gary Wilson. Really no other word for it. And it proved to be his last participation in the opening rack, which has gone the way of James Aranas of the Philippines. A few scores to update you on since we were with you earlier. Mateusz Sniegocki of Poland, Pichitan Chabra of India, 9-3. Longduk Tien, a 9-0 winner over Iiru Rompainen from Finland. Skylar Woodward got through just a few minutes ago against Hector Luna Iglesias without losing a rack. And an absolute epic that finished a short time ago. Jose Carlos Dominguez Lago winning 9-8 against Tom Stavely. Victory for Johan Chua as well, 9-1 against Ivan Ray Palmero. Those all first round matches. Remember, this is the second round, so they're playing for places in the winners qualification stage. Aranas 1-0 up.
That was a decent break. I think the cue ball got kissed down into this bottom corner. I don't think it was a poor break. Let's have a look. Yeah, it just come off the bottom side of the 9. That's why it's ended up over there. Push out will be played. Push out is where James can now hit another ball on the table. He can just tap the white. He can even pot a ball. So he's decided to roll the cue ball there. Gary now comes to the table. He'll play the shot. If he doesn't fancy it, he'll give it back to James. It's as simple as that. Difficult to see how much of this 2-ball Gary can see, so he's got the best view in the arena for this one. Well, Michael, your view's not too bad actually. You sort of sat right behind it from where we're sat in comms, I mean.
Yeah, but you're the one with the younger eyes, Carl.
I think you can see sort of full ball. Cheeky effort that. Not quite got that right. And this is a chance for Gary. He's already missed a 2-ball in the opener. This is it's actually much more difficult than the 2-ball he's missed, but you still fancy him to make this, and he can draw down the bottom of the table for the 3. Oh, and it's a miscue. It's all going on the 2-ball here for Gary Wilson.
Yeah, I think he would happily take that away and burn it. I know his pool career has been relatively short. You would have to say he's probably not played 2 worse shots than those we've seen in the last couple of racks.
That's the exact example why you need to play with a pool cue at this game, because he's using a 10.5 tip. It's very thin. Using a 12mm if you like, that's the average. You just get so much more out of the cue ball, so he was really trying to nip the cue ball to get down, and well, he's miscued, and this is not the start for Mr. Wilson. But James Aranas will be pleased to see this, and it's all about punishing the mistakes. It's a wee bit shy of pace, that. You might have to play this with a bit of check side or a bit of kill the cue ball, because it looks quite thin. Yeah, you see where he's aiming low. Let's just see if he plays that little kill shot with a bit of right-hand English. Yeah, he did. Yeah, now he's done well there. Back in. I think this is what you get with Aranas. Very talented. Maybe cue ball's not quite on a dime, so he has to come out with a few more flare shots, but he's got the flare shots. He's got the game. We've seen that at the World Masters when he got to the semi-finals in Brentwood just about a month ago, I think it was.
Yeah, made some early noise there by beating the world champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz in the opening round by 9 racks to 7, and then an extraordinary match against Victor Zielinski in the quarterfinals. Came through a hill finish there, pushed the eventual winner Ko Pin Yi very hard in the semis before going down 11-9. I mentioned Johan Chua there. He and Aranas are actually the only 2 Philippines players in the field.
It's amazing when you keep losing that cue ball and you have to force the next positional shot. At some point you will come unstuck.
Well, we always say that the very best players make it look so easy at times, and that's how they do it, by always being able to leave themselves the easy pots. But of course, finding that level of accuracy in your positional play, that's the hard part. Well, if Wilson can pot this and emerge from these first couple of racks level in the match, he'll feel he's got away with it a bit, given the balls he's missed.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he punched that. If it was touching the rail, it's actually a really horrible shot on a pool table and a snooker table. Obviously, that's the game he plays. But you've sort of got to roll that and hopefully it hugs the rail, but this has been a disaster start.
It's a start which has given Gary Wilson the blues. He's played 2 terrible shots on the blue too, and has ended up losing both racks. James Aranas 2-0 in front here. Elliot Sanderson, who'll be playing for Britain in the World Cup of Pool at this venue next week, is on the hill against Luis Gabriel Mundurai Mestre. 8-6 in that one. Alexander Kazakis, former World Masters champion, is on the hill as well at 8-5 against the Dutch player Jan van Lierop. Justin Sajic on the hill at 8-3 against Ramesh Dani Gokul. And a couple of other players on the hill. Aydin Piknjac of Bosnia and Herzegovina leading 8-6 against Evelyn Bojanov from Bulgaria. And Adrian Trilo Barca of Spain has an 8-5 lead over the Italian player Simone Zappi. 2-0 to Aranas.
His 2 balls played a big part in this match. We're only 2 racks in. I suppose obviously when you keep potting the one on the break, it seems to always be the next ball that you're going to be going for. Going to need to play a push though. Full ball hooked. Tricky push out too, because you can't leave the cue ball anywhere in the lower half of the table because you'd leave a pot. Don't really want to be rolling out to a jump shot. You'd be pushing the bar out a bit too far. So top sort of right hand side of the table looks to be the place to be. Yeah, that's what he's doing. Oh, he's got to watch it don't scratch. I thought it might pull in then.
Gary Wilson, 37 years of age. He will be 38 later in the summer. First came to wider attention when he won the World Under-21 Snooker Championship 20 years ago next year. He was off the snooker tour for 7 years, doing other jobs like working in a frozen foods factory and driving a taxi. Got back onto the snooker tour 10 years ago and made a much better success of it second time around. Won his first ranking title just before Christmas at the Scottish Open in Edinburgh.
Had to go for the bank really. He'd be disappointed he's not made that one. Obviously he did go close. Very close looking at the overhead.
It's just so hard to pot anything at pace into these pockets when they're this tight. It was a real theme of yesterday's play. We saw it again with that one Wilson missed from distance on the 9 in the previous rack.
Yeah, I wonder if he can go forward and bump the 8, because you don't want to start having to dig down on this, especially when you've miscued. That's what he's tried. Been fortunate really, because he's left a shot. I think it's fairly straight into the top left. Cue ball could have landed anywhere when you're bumping into the ball. Not happy with that one. I don't know if he thinks it's rolled out or not. Don't know. Often a player, when they pop the ball, you know, when you miss it, you think the table's rolled off.
Don't be under any illusions that Gary Wilson is here for a bit of a trip to Spain with some pool thrown in. He'll be approaching this with every bit as much seriousness as he does any of the snooker events he plays. He's having a bit of a shocker so far, and that's why he's so frustrated. And that wasn't good from Aranas.
Yeah, it's not like Aranas has played well in this match yet. He's just overspun the cue ball there. So still early days in this match. I'm sure if Gary can just get a rack on the board. Every shot he plays is just a horror show though. Oh, double hit that one.
You never have to guess what Gary Wilson is thinking, because you can always see it from his facial expressions, his body language.
Well, that was a neat shot. Very neat shot, very thin. You're always scared of the middle pockets coming into play.
It was such a big moment for Aranas, getting to the semi-finals of the World Masters last month in Brentwood on his debut appearance in the tournament. He's been building for the last few years. He was one of those players who was starting to get some momentum in his career just when COVID came and shut everything down. He'd been runner-up in the Derby City Classic, third at the Turning Stone, runner-up in Las Vegas, all of that in the 12 months or so before the COVID shutdown, and he'd won some smaller events in the US around that time. The good news for him, though, is that since the international scene got back up and running, he's managed to get that momentum once again. Got to the final of the Asian Open last year, semi-finalist at the International Open year before that. And playing pretty well so far in 2023.
Well, if we could show you the chances Gary's had, you would not believe the scoreline. He's 3 racks to 0.
Yeah, could have won all of those racks. Instead, he's lost them all. So James Aranas, as you said, Carl, not playing particularly well himself, but in terms of the score, he's off to a flyer. It's 3-0. Elliot Sanderson still looking for one more, leading 8-6 against Luis Gabriel Mundaray Maestra. And there is Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, very much the poster boy for this tournament, but he's actually lost the first couple of racks of his second match against Nick Malai. That's over on table 3. Coasted through earlier today against Enrique Rodriguez Lima. Looked for a long time as though it was going to be a whitewash. Late in the match, that was averted, but it finished 9-1 to FSR. Elliot Sanderson has now won. He's come through 9-6. And will play either Sullivan Clark or Dode Kien. They're level at 4-all.
Yeah, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, you were just alluding to that match, Michael. He's got a tough match there. Nick Malai's been off the scene for a year or two. Very dangerous player, gets on with the game, plays fast. He's beat a lot of these top boys and he's now back on the world tour. So that's a tricky match for the world number 1. Aranas, this is a thin one up into the top corner. He will play this shot. That's nice to see that, because I thought that ball might slide in, but that's the type of shot where I don't like it when it goes in. Look where this 2-ball hits.
Don't think that 2-ball wants to cooperate with the plans of either player so far in this match. Now Wilson, okay, it's only 3-0, but if that becomes much more, this could slip away from him, so got to start making something happen here. Just remind himself how well he's played, not just in the UK Open a few weeks ago, but in his match earlier today.
I don't know if he can go forward and miss contact with the purple 5. If he can, he's got to play the 2-rail shot. If he's worried about that, he may have to like dig into this cue ball. It's a big shot coming up for Gary. I don't know if he's got there. I don't know if he can pop this ball. Maybe he can just get through. It's tight. Just needs a rack on the board, doesn't he? You just get the feeling of how the start of this match has gone. This is a must-win rack. All the balls are there. There's no reason why Gary shouldn't clear the table now.
Before the UK Open, I know he played in the event in Scotland, but in terms of putting in practice, apart from that, he told me there wasn't a huge amount of it, but it's been different for this event. He's been working with Adam Smith, another player we're familiar with from these tournaments, and getting practice in before he came out here. He had every reason to be enthusiastic about the journey after how far he'd got at the copper box, making it to the last 16. And this has looked much more like it. And so Gary Wilson gets off the mark. James Aranas now leading 3-1. Alexander Kazakis still looking for one more in his first round match against Jan van Lierop. That one's at 8-5. Now this match we're watching is in the second round, so looking at some other scores, Hunter Lombardo, the American player, 3-2 up on the Finnish youngster Riku Rompainen. Sanyan Pelovanovic has a 5-1 lead over Alexandra Eve. Naoki Oi going along very well, 4-0 up against Christopher Tevez, who'll be playing for Peru in the World Cup next week. Duan Huang has a 2-1 lead over Jose Carlos Dominguez Lago. Petri Mäkinen has taken the opener, facing Antonius Kakaris. So matches going on in 2 rounds at the same time. It's all so hectic the first few days, and you've got winner's side and loser's side. But from Friday morning, we're down to the final 64, and it's very straightforward, straight knockout, 1 round effectively in each session. Aydin Pikniak of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Adrian Trilo Barca of Spain. I told you they were both on the hill, and they've both now got the rack they were looking for and are through to the second round. Gary Wilson's already there, and he's just got 1 on the board. He's 3-1 down. Obviously, one of the hardest things for a snooker player trying to come over and play pool to adjust to is the break. You're up against guys who've been doing it all their life. So what do you make of Gary Wilson's approach to the break and the technique he brings to it?
Yeah, obviously he's breaking with an open bridge. It's not something a pool player would really opt for. And he did make the one, but it probably looked a hair thin. But the main thing is you've got to pot that one, haven't you? So he is doing. That means he's going to stay at the table. The shot's gone wrong because he's caught the jaws. Yeah, he couldn't pot the ball, so he's played safe. This looks like a good effort. Will James try and slide in behind this ball and play a one-rail kick and stick. Leave the cue ball there, get rid of the 3 ball up top end of the table. Looked like he was looking at maybe playing the bank shot as well into the top right. Needs to avoid the middle. This has gone wrong, so James he's not played a solid match himself. I know we're talking about Gary, but Aranas has played a few loose ones. Yeah, that's better from Gary. That was a big shot. He knew if he misses it, he's leaving the world. If he gets it, he's got a good chance.
I think what we've seen with some of the snooker players playing in these events, they are good enough for getting through the matches against the more obscure players, but then when they come up against one of the more established names of the pool scene, they get beaten. But Gary Wilson has challenged that inevitability. Some of the wins he's had, he beat Thomas Kaplan and more notably Naoki Oi on his way to the last 16 of the UK Open. So he won't be coming into a match like this thinking, well, I'm up against a much more established name now, so this is probably as far as I'm going to go. And again, that creates its own internal pressure, because you have a bit more expectation of yourself when you know that you can beat very good and experienced players on the pool scene.
Needs his cue ball to slow down, it just has. Just losing the cue ball, isn't he? Ever so slightly. Good news, he can just pop the ball. Cue ball was always going to go over to that side of the table.
Well, let's be fair, it was a shocking start from Gary Wilson. Some of the shots he played, some of the balls he missed. And although he isn't quite fully into his stride yet, things are looking a lot better now. And he's won 2 racks in a row to get back to only 1 behind at 3-2. Still some matches going on in the first round. Zheng Zhaohui, who'll be playing for China in the World Cup, has a 7-3 lead over Maria Teresa Rapero of Spain. The winner of that will play Claudio Cacci, who knocked out Mohamed Soufi, or beat Mohamed Soufi earlier. Alexander Kazakis in the same round, still looking for that one more that he needs. 8-6 over Jan van Lierop. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz in the second round is 3-1 down to Nick Malai. Sanyan Pelovanovic cruising along 7-1 now against Alexandra Eve. And Naoki Oi has got a 6-0 lead against the Peruvian player Christopher Tevez.
I think he may be able to see that slight edge, and that's about it. This is where James has not quite performed yet in the safety department. He's played 2 or 3 loose ones. This doesn't look like it's an easy shot, this. Well, what a shot he's played there, by the way. To kill the cue ball full length and softly draw it into that little space, tremendous shot. Little swerve shot, just make contact. Needs this to bounce. It's not bad, at least he's not left an easy pot. This is the department James should really excel at in this match. He's really got to keep Gary, you know, keep kicking at the ball.
And again, it's a shot on the 2 that does not work out as intended for Wilson. So a chance here for Aranas to perhaps stem the tide of Wilson's mini recovery in the match.
Yeah, that's kind of proves the point now. If James can just keep, you know, the racks tight, just keep playing the hooks, I feel like Gary's not going to be strong in that department of, you know, coming back with that percentage safety shot.
Yeah, and also it's the sort of thing that's likely to get to him, frustrate him. When you've got that advantage in terms of experience on the smaller table game, you've got to play to it. Aranas and Johan Chua will be defending a big legacy for the Philippines in the World Cup of Pool next week. They share the record for the most times winning it with China, 3 each, albeit that one of those was for the Philippines B team when they were the host nation. It's been 10 years now since they won it. Aranas has left himself a bit awkward here, queuing over the 8. And the 6 just dies of exhaustion, gets on the 7, so the situation recovered.
Yeah, it must just be a speed thing, because, you know, we do see them sometimes hang up, sometimes they don't. I don't really understand why, but one thing he's doing is he's losing the cue ball far too much, and this is why he's just chasing rack after rack after rack. I don't even know why he's sort of played it that way. Kind of letting Gary stay in the match, isn't he?
Yeah, well, as I say, he'd recovered the situation with his shot on the 6 and then immediately plays himself back out of position with the very next shot.
Wasn't clinical, but there's no pictures on a scoreboard.
There are numbers though, and they make pleasant reading for James Aranas at the moment. Hang on, do they? Well, we cut away from it there. We could still see it in the arena. Cue ball was heading towards the side pocket, but it has now come to a rest. And so James Aranas looks keen to get on with it in the next rack. He's gone 2 clear at 4-2. Now just having a look at the scores in the other matches in this second day of the Spanish Open. You can see some of them going through there. Pick out your own particular favourites. We were keeping an eye on Alexander Kazakis, who was looking for one more rack to get through against Jan van Lierop in round 1. He's got that now. He's won by 9 racks to 6. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz in danger in the second round. He's now 4-1 down to Nick Malai. American Hunter Lombardo 5-3 in front of Riku Rompainen. All these players playing for places in winners' qualification round. Christopher Tevez of Peru has averted the whitewash. He's won the 7th rack, but 6-1 down against Naoki Oi, so still a long way back for him. Duong Kwok Hwang, who's been having such a good year, leading 4-1 against Jose Carlos Dominguez. And Petri Makinen has a 2-1 lead over the Greek player, Antonius Kakaris. We can have a quick look in on table 2 to see what's going on there while we wait for play to resume here. Aranas seems to have taken a timeout. And this is Duong Kwok Hwang. Certainly of all the players who've been making a name for themselves on the international stage so far this year, Duong Kwok Hwang's name is right in there, Carl.
Yeah, he's a big deal over there in Vietnam. Seem to be bringing a lot of strong players. Obviously had such a fantastic run at the World Championships earlier on in the season. Beat SVB there.
Yeah, and then beat him again in another event just a few weeks later. 6 players from Vietnam in the field. One of the absolute growth nations of pool at the moment. The potential there is so big. You consider that they're not really very well established in many other sports, and it is such an enormous country. We'll keep you across that. Back here, 4-2 to Aranas. Now, has that left a shot at the 2? What are your thoughts, Carl?
It's so difficult to tell, isn't it? I'm not prepared to make judgment. That tells us he's playing the push. Well, I think Gary will have a go at this ball if he pots it. I think cue ball runs into the purple 5 enough where he would leave a shot on the red 3. Yeah, it's one of them. It's like a clever push from Aranas because he knows Gary's 4-2 down. He knows he's going to take it on. He knows it's not an easy pot. Now he's got the easy pot, and he's pretty much going to make sure he's got an angle on the red 3. There you go. The mind games of the push out.
I think Gary Wilson's playing a few mind games with himself at the moment. This is something he tends to do. He can get inside his own head a bit too much, and not someone who's particularly adept, or it seems all that bothered about hiding it. He cuts a very frustrated figure at the moment. Just one more first round result to wrap up. Zheng Zhao Huai has now completed that win against Maria Teresa Rapero at 9-3. Now goes through to play Claudio Cacci, who we saw on one of the main tables earlier.
Just giving this shot a little bit of respect. I think the 5 ball must be touching the rail where the 6 ball is. He's just making sure he finds that right path. Yeah, look at the cue ball coming here, just sat in absolutely perfect. What a shot.
It's been a strange mix, really. He's played a number of really good positional shots like that, and then at other times, completely needlessly, lost position.
Yeah, kind of feel like that's his style of play as well.
Yeah, certainly at the World Masters he played some great stuff, and then at other times actually struggled, even in the matches that he won. So Aranas was 3 clear. Wilson reduced that to a single rack, but it looks as though there's going to be 3 between them again in a moment. And that is indeed the case. So once again, it was the 2-ball that was Gary Wilson's nemesis. Missed the pot on it and sat down with a very frustrated expression on his face for the rest of the rack. So it's 5-2 to Aranas. No progress to report on that match involving Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, the world number 1, the top seed here, playing in his home country, but 4-1 down against Nick Malai. Naoki Oi continuing to edge towards victory. Christopher Tevez has won 2 of the last 3 racks, but Oi still looking very strong at 7-2. Christian Surdea of Romania with a 4-0 lead over Jonas Kornmesser. And that is FSR at the table, looking to start turning that one around. FSR went to the loser's side very unexpectedly at the UK Open, did make the later stages in the end.
Okay, can't see the 2, so he's going to play the roll out. Where's he going to roll the cue ball to this time? Last time he left a tempter for Gary. Gary missed the 2-ball. Aranas won the rack. Problem here is the 2-ball's going into a more generous pocket because it's a little bit closer to the rail. This is the type of table split where a pool player playing a snooker player would be more happy, just because the 4-ball's a little funky, so you know, the lesser player, if you like, has got a bit of work to do there. You can see what he's done here. He's basically said, have a go at another pot, but if you pot it, how do you get on the 3? And then how do you get from the 3 to the 4? So this is where the art of the game and the thinking comes in. I don't think he's having a go at the pot. I think he's playing off the edge. Yeah, he is. I think he's made the bank shot, though.
And it seems ended up on the 3 at the end of it all anyway.
Yeah, that might not have worked out too bad. If you can bot this 3 and get close to the combo, play the pink 4 onto the green and win the rack.
It's funny, isn't it, how you were talking about all the work that Wilson would have to do if he got the chance, and then really in one shot he's opened things up quite a bit. Suddenly got a great chance to get back to only 2 behind.
Yeah, it was that little bump on the round 7 after the bank went in. It just sat up really nice just to roll the cue ball through for the combo. Obviously, it's hard to know if he was truly playing the bank. Maybe he was just wanting the distance. The fact that it fell in at the pace it did would tell us that he wasn't. Needs to bear down here, though. That's fine. He'll just spin the cue ball round off the 2 rails. Wanted that another foot.
So perhaps a bit of good fortune along the way with that shot that opened up the rack. But it's all part of the game. And Gary Wilson really needed to win that rack, having fallen 3 behind again. And so it's now 5-3. It looks as though another rack has been completed in the FSR match. We don't have the updated score yet. We will bring you that as soon as we have it. 4-1 down, as I was reporting, against Nick Malai. Duong Kwok Hang over on table 2. which you can watch, of course, on Matchroom Multisport YouTube. Leading 6-1 against Jose Carlos Dominguez Lago. Petri Mäkinen level at 3 each with Antonius Kakaris. Been a good day for the Albanians so far. And another of them, Bezar Spahiu, is just getting started against Christos Papageorgiou on table 19. Better signs from Gary Wilson then when he got his chance in that rack. Back to 2 behind.
Oh, that's generous. Needs the 8 to stop though. Oh, it's just covered the pot, hasn't it? That last roll on the 8 has stopped the yellow on ball potting. Here's another look.
Well, if that had worked out a little better, he might have felt he was getting his just desserts, really, because he would feel the 2-ball owes him something from previous racks. But then the 8-ball came and intervened, and oh, he knew straight away that that wasn't a good outcome. Does he feel it rolled off?
Yes, he does. Obviously, these tables, you know, they're not sat in the venue for a long time. Table fitters stay on site because obviously once you level a table, the weight of the table needs time to settle. So table fitters keep coming out and checking the tables. So there's no doubt about it, after this match we will be sending the fitter out just to, you know, move the legs. It's just something it's hard to, I suppose, stay on top of.
Francisco Sanchez Ruiz did win that 6th rack, so he's back to 4-2 behind now against Nick Malai. Gary Wilson has been to the semi-finals of the biggest event in snooker, the World Championship at the Crucible 4 years ago. Beat Mark Selby on the way. Played Selby at the Crucible again this year in the last 16 stage, gave him a good match. And Selby just pulled away as it went on and won quite comfortably in the end.
Just hit that a little too fat. That was all. It was the right idea. Aranas has just, he's played some woeful shots. He really has. That was a mile away from the bank. Feel like he should have run away with this match, but because of his few errors, he's keeping Gary in with a chance.
He doesn't seem to be the sort of player who wins matches that way. It tends to be more like this. He's got to struggle and battle a bit. Gary Wilson was a 9-1 winner earlier against Manuel Castro Gonzalez. James Aranas coming through by the same score against Flavian Glont, one of the 6 Romanians in the field. And against a tougher opponent. Aranas, as I say, not the sort of player who's going to win a match by a landslide. Well, just as Aranas could have been running away with this match by now, Wilson, if he can end this only 1 behind, it's bound to feel he's got away with it a bit. And Might be a bit surprised to find himself still so much in contention. This 9 to make it 2 racks in a row. Really dreadful mistake from James Aranas in that rack. Handed Gary Wilson an absolute gift, and he accepted it gleefully. So Aranas' lead reduced once again to a single rack at 5-4. Just news of another Hill finish. It's going on in round 1, where we're very much at the closing stages of that round now. Alex Montpellier of France and Bruno Bernardo from Portugal. That one has gone 8-all. And Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has now won 2 in a row, so now just 4-3 down against Nick Malai. Riku Rompainen and Hunter Lombardo level at 5-all. The winner of that will play the winner of that FSR match. Mateusz Sniagotsky has a 4-3 lead over Kostas Kukiadakis. Christopher Tevez still battling away. Well, 6-0 down to Naoki Oi, has reduced that to 7-3. Christian Serdea 5-1 up against Jonas Kornmesser. Duong Kwa Kwang has lost a rack to Jose Carlos Dominguez Lago, but still in a very healthy position at 6-2. Petri Makinen edging ahead of Antonius Kakaris. That one's now 4-3. Mieszko Fortunski off to a good start. 3-0 against Aaron Javier Vasquez Paradela. 5-4 here.
Try break. He will be disappointed, but he won't be disappointed with what he's left. Aranas will be playing the push out. Again, it's not an easy one. He's just looking to tap the cue ball there, maybe leave a piece of the top rail. Yeah, I think he's just left that little gap in between the pocket and the one ball. Can go off that top rail and kick it back down the bottom end of the table. Does Gary fancy this, or is he going to give it back? Digging deep on this ball. Oh, I think he tried to swerve and pot that one, Michael.
Yeah, looks like it from there, and leaves the table with another shake of the head. Because once again, he's left a chance.
That was a good shot. He just needs one more. He needs to find that little gap in between the 9 ball and the pink 4 ball. If he can just slide through that gap. This is the big key shot in this rack, actually. If he gets this right, he becomes big favourite. Oh, that's nicely done. Seems to come with the goods when he needs to. When he gets in front, that's when he seems to make the mistake, to let Gary back in.
Yeah, I think you've summed up the match so far very well there. He's a player who makes progress by doing enough over the course of a match. We talk about him as a rising star and a promising young player, but he is 31 now. So do you see him in the long term, Carl, as someone who's capable of winning events like this?
Yeah, I mean, he's a tricky one, isn't he? We know there's loads of players in the Philippines who play at this type of speed, this level. It's just coming over to these, you know, these type of events. It's just a different formula. You know, we talk about how good Fedor Gorst is. Unfortunately for Fedor, he's been stuck in the States for 24 months, playing in all like tournaments in clubs and bars, and it's a different vibe. So I know Fedor's world class, of course he is, but until you've done it in this arena, in this type of building, have you really done it? It's a different type of vibe, isn't it? It's a different experience. And Albin, SVB, Sanchez Ruiz, Capchi's now done it. Copigny winning the Masters. It just feels different, doesn't it, Michael?
But when you look at the top players, the ones who've been consistently winning tournaments, now they make mistakes, but they don't do it when they win tournaments. The level of play you have to get to and the number of mistakes you can make over the course of a tournament is so small. Could you ever see him being at that level?
He's definitely got the game, hasn't he? You can see that. It's going to come down to how much he wants it. You know, the fact that he's here playing, he's in the World Cup of Pool next week, obviously, so it's just, you just got to keep coming, haven't you? It's how bad do you want it?
Gary Wilson was looking to draw level in that rack, having won the previous two, but he broke dry and ended up losing it. So James Aranas staying in front here. He's been ahead ever since he won the first rack. Two clear now at 6-4. Hunter Lombardo also moving towards the line. Now 7-5 up against Riku Rompainen. Winner of that would be expected to play Francisco Sanchez Ruiz in winners qualification, but he's still got work to do. 4-3 down to Nick Malai. Kostas Kukiadakis and Mateusz Sniagotsky involved in a really close one. That's 4-all. Jonas Kornmesser has averted the whitewash. Christian Serdea leading that one, 5-1. Some great names in the field from some of these Spanish players. Iker Andoni Echeverria Rodriguez currently leading Liberto Vivar in an all-Spanish clash, 6-2.
This is better because he can pot the 2. The pink 4 passes the brown 7. This is an open layout. Not really seen many of these off the break. There's been a lot of push-outs. Both players seem to have not shot the lowest ball. This is a glorious chance now.
Which seems like a good opportunity, Carl, because we haven't had the chance yet this week to ask you for your pick for the title. JJ's gone for Albin Ocean. What are your thoughts?
Have yourself and Phil picked yet?
I'm going to think about it while you're telling us your answer. Phil tends to wait until the event's over and then tell us that he knew all along who was going to win.
Yeah, that's a fair one. Right, let me have a little think as James knocks these balls in.
Well, you can't have Filler, because I'm taking him. Went close, of course, at the UK Open.
I'll take Wu on the return.
Wow, it's a big call. I mean, obviously, very capable player who's been there in big events before, but that would be, be a huge achievement if he was to win it after so long out. I remember Monica Seles when she got stabbed on the court in Hamburg. Came back after 2 years and won her very first event back.
I think he can just pull the cue ball back with a bit of low left. Play for the 8 in the bottom right corner. Yeah, that's nicely done.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a run out from the break yet in this match. A lot of that down, as you say, to sort of layouts the players have been left with. And this really was clearly a very good chance once they settled after the break. And James Aranas led by 3 racks at the start of the match. And through one thing and another, he's found his way back to that situation. He only needs 2 more to progress now. It's 7-4. Also in this round, Mieszko Fortunski going well with a 4-1 lead over Aaron Javier Vasquez Paradela. Bezar Spahiu looking to continue a good day for the Albanian contingent, has won the opening rack against Christos Papageorgiou. Petri Makinen is 5-3 up on Antonius Kakaris. Duong Kwok Hwang just looking for a couple more, 7-2 against Jose Carlos Dominguez Lago. Well, the one we're really keeping an eye on is the one happening on table 3, where Nick Malai has won the 8th rack. So that prospect of beating Francisco Sanchez Ruiz still very much alive. It's now 5-3 to Malai. Christopher Tevez continuing his wonderful recovery. He's now won 5 of the last 6 racks and now trails Naoki Oi only 7-5. Both of those players will be involved in the World Cup next week. Tevez for Peru, Oi, of course, for Japan.
Is he going to get a look at the 2? Oh, he's not. Look where the cue ball's landed, Michael. Very unusual.
Well, is it touching both of them? We might see from here. I mean, you would wonder how that's even technically possible. It looks there like there's not even enough of a gap to get in, but wow.
That's an incredible push out as well, isn't it? That's just basically saying, I don't fancy to knock this ball in. I mean, this would be a standard shot to nothing on a 12b6, wouldn't it? Incredible. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that push out. I mean, you can't be leaving the cue ball there for good cueists. Not saying he had loads of options because we know where the cue ball landed, but
it's funny, isn't it? It's a very good point you're making there, because you consider the dimensions involved, it would be considered a fairly routine pot on a snooker table, but because you're on a pool table with the smaller surface, it feels like a long pot, even though it's exactly the same shot you're talking about.
Playing off this thin, he's got to make sure he finds that rail, which he has done, trying to use the 8 ball as well. That's nicely done there. Aranas will go off the bottom rail. He'll fire into this ball as well. 6 ball, he'll be moving. Good things can happen here. He may even put the brown 7 in the left centre. Oh, look where that 7 ball's gone. The fact that it stayed there has made this a horrible, horrible shot. Big crowd around table 3. That's because the world number 1, the US Open champ, the world champ, is involved in a battle.
Yeah, FSR up against Nick Malai, as I was saying, 5-3 to the Greek player. Huge Greek contingent here again, 14 players. Only the host nation itself and the UK have more. You tend not to see any sort of significant crowd building around those tables in the early stages, just because there are so many matches going on and it's all spread out. So when you see players gathering round a particular table like that, you know there's a big story going on. And that is the man at the centre of it.
Yeah, for the people who have never been to one of these open tournaments, you can literally get up to any table, can't you, Michael? There's all these sort of channels, and you can sort of see them where the barriers are, and you can just walk around, and you'd be amazed how close you can actually get to the table. You can just prop yourself up at a railing, can't you?
Yeah, and you can watch a few tables at once. There's no other sport like it, really. I know at a tennis event you can walk around the outside courts, but it takes a bit of time to get between them. Even at a snooker event, it's not quite as easy to move around, but because a pool table is quite small, you can see so much without moving to any great degree. Another chance for Wilson, and you would have to think if it went 8-4, it would be hard to see him winning from there. So big opportunity for him to keep this alive as a real contest.
Just wants this to bounce a little bit more. Yeah, it's not ideal, but obviously he has a shot. If it just rolls another foot, it's guaranteed. Now you've got to kind of float this ball in. It's got to go in the middle bag, and it does. He's been hanging on in this match. He just won't go away.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, of course, if you just keep hanging in, eventually you lose. So at some point he's going to have to, I would think, step up his game a bit, put a few racks together. He is 3 behind now. So got to find another level. Let's very quickly go over to table 2. Duong Quoc Hoang of Vietnam potting the winning 9-ball to beat Jose Carlos Dominguez Lago, who went straight into that match after a real slog against Tom Stavely earlier. And Duong Quoc Hoang advances to the winner's qualification round.
Okay, this 9-ball to pull to 2 behind again.
It thought about it for a moment. Really needed to win that rack, and he has. Gary Wilson, as you say, clinging on here. Still in the match, it's 7-5. As we look at it again, I can tell you they're still playing the 9th rack. Nick Malai 5-3 up on Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Hunter Lombardo is on the hill now against Riku Rompainen. 8-6 there. Winner of that plays the winner of the FSR match. Naoki Oi has somewhat belatedly made it to the hill, was 6-0 up against Christopher Tevez. He now leads 8-5. And that win for Duong Quoc Hoang means he will now face David Al-Kaidi. That'll be one of the standout matches of the winner's qualification round. Al-Kaidi played both of his matches yesterday. Actually kicked the tournament off on the main table. That's where Gary Wilson is now, and he's still right in this match, having closed to 7-5.
Nine ball's flirting with the side. I believe he's got a shot, Michael. He does have a shot. He can pop this 2-ball. Where's the 9-ball finished again? There's not a 3-9 combo, is it? No, there's not. But the 3 goes in that left middle. Also goes in the left corner.
Well, we said that he's got to move beyond the stage of hanging on and actually build some momentum in this match if he's to retain hope of winning it. He couldn't reasonably have asked for a much better opportunity to do it here, follow up on winning the last rack.
The green 6 to the 7-ball looks like it's the only real place where things could start to get a little bit fiddly. So let's keep an eye on where the cue ball finishes when he goes from the green 6 to the 7.
Just before we get to that hill finish I was telling you about earlier, Bruno Bernardo of Portugal has won it against the French player Alex Montpellier. So only one match left in the first round. Do Tae Kien of Vietnam on the hill at 8-6 against Sullivan Clark.
This is a shot coming up because you don't want to leave yourself too wide of an angle to pot the brown 7. But getting close to it, you're flirting with the side pocket.
Oh, and the slap in the head shows that he knew what he had done there. Great call, Carl. Well, what a chance he had to get back to 1 behind, really put the pressure on Aranas. And that sums up Gary Wilson. He's not one to complain about things and blame other people for his misfortune. He's very, very critical of himself and expects only the very highest standards. Well, that mistake has given Aranas a chance, a gift really, of an opportunity to get to the hill.
Yeah, he knew he just wanted to get really close with a little bit of an angle on the 7. And he just put too much spin on it. That sent it into the bucket. And this looks like Aranas. He's finally going to get to the hill in a topsy-turvy match, it has to be said. It's been an interesting one. Been a good battle.
Yeah, it really has. He raced out into a 3-0 lead. Wilson has never been able to get level. Got back to a rack behind a couple of times. He was looking to do the same there and had every opportunity to do so. But the scratch in the side pocket proved to be his last involvement in an unlucky 13th rack. So James Aranas will be breaking on the hill in just a moment. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has won the 9th rack. Back to 5-4 down against Nicholas Malai. There is FSR. At the moment, it looks as though he would play Hunter Lombardo for a place in single elimination. Lombardo 8-6 up on Riku Rompainen over on table 6. Kostas Kukiadakis could be heading for a useful win over Mateusz Niagotsky of Poland. It's 6-4 to the player from Greece. Mayuki Oi still looking for one more, leading Christopher Tevez 8-5. Next up on this table will be the American Skylar Woodward, who's been showing a lot of good form recently. He'll be playing Dang Jinhu, and that may be coming up quite soon now because Aranas just needs one more.
That is going to be a fantastic match. Great to have Dang back on the world stage. What a treat that is for the pool fans watching. And does Michael will be in the box for that one. Well, this is a chance if he can get this first shot right. This is where that 4-inch pocket comes into its own. You can still hit the rail, you can still cheat it, which you need to in the game of 9 ball, that's what it's about. But you can't be hitting halfway up the rail and getting away with it. It's got to go there. That's a good shot.
Just mentioning the pockets, Gary Wilson, as I was saying, was doing some practice with Adam Smith, who has his own table ahead of this tournament. And he was telling me the pockets are even tighter on that table.
Well, I had a few cheeky beverages with Gary last night and his father, and we were having a good chat, good laugh, and he was telling me about that, and he actually said make sure Emily never makes them that small because it just changes the whole dynamic of the game, the sport.
Oh, you see, you've put the idea in her head now, and we know the way Emily thinks. I think she wants to make the pockets basically disappear. Can never be hard enough.
This chance has gone wrong. He's hooked himself on the pink ball. Just flicked the 8 ball, didn't he? Yeah, and then it's gone behind the purple 5. He can kick it. He'll definitely hit this. He's trying to pot it in one of the middles. Going this way. He may scratch in the top right corner if he hits it hard. May go close. Well, I can't believe he's missed that little one-rail kick. That's just incredible.
Yeah, not only ball in hand, but an encouraging layout here for Wilson. Needing to win the last 4 racks, he's going to have to find his very best form.
Yeah, when you're in your chair and the situation Gary's in, you think, oh, I've got to win the last 4. You feel like it's a tall order, but since I've been doing comms and I don't play, I've started to believe it's not that much of a tall order. Even though, like I said, when I was playing, I thought, oh, God, this is going to be brutal. But you win this 8-6, you break, get a golden 8-7. You know, 8-7 is as good as Hill really, because you've just put the pressure back on your opponent. So he's definitely still in this match.
It's an easy game, really, Carl. Don't know why you stopped playing it.
I stopped playing it because I was playing shots like that, what Gary's just played. He's left himself a tricky one. Nowhere near where he wanted the cue ball. He's getting down quick.
Oh, he delivered well there, didn't he? Knew that if he missed that, it was probably match over. Knew that he could miss it. And still he's hanging on. So we said he needed to win the last 4. He has now completed a quarter of that task. He'll be breaking, looking to get back to only 1 behind. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz is 1 behind against Nick Malai. That one is 5-4. Riku Rompainen still battling away against Hunter Lombardo. Winners of those 2 matches play each other. Rompainen has won the 15th rack, and that's now gone 8-7. Sanchez Ruiz in the 10th rack, ball in hand. Chance to level that one. Don't think he's been level actually at any stage since the opening rack. Naoki Oi still on the hill, leading Christopher Tevez 8-5. It was 6-0 earlier. Wilson still punching. Oh, and he'll like this. Comeback could be on here, Carl.
Yeah, things are definitely going to get a little fruity now here on the centre court. Can he find a way of getting on the red 3? Let's have a look. He could do. I think he could actually go forward and find the gap in between the pink and the green ball. There is a little gap there. And slide up the left-hand side of the table. There you go. It's not bad. Main thing is just leave yourself a pot.
He's beaten some very good players since his foray into pool started. Thomas Kaplan and Naoki Oi. JJ Fall as well. They were all among the players he beat on his way to the last 16 of the UK Open. He gave Francisco Sanchez Ruiz a good contest for a lot of the match, but while everyone else was saying how well he'd done to get that far, he was feeling he'd missed a big opportunity to go even further. That's the way he thinks. He wouldn't come out here if he didn't feel he could make an impact.
He's taking his time here, but I think he can just go forward 2 rails, leave yourself a shot between the 6 and the 9, shoot the 5 in the top corner. I think his instinct, he's going to draw this ball. Yeah, he is. I knew that. He's going to try and play into the 6. This is dangerous. But it's okay. That's all that matters. He's got to play the shot he feels comfortable with out there with his cue and, you know, with his lack of cue ball knowledge. So I don't blame him for playing the shot he played. Of course, Gary knows he doesn't let the cue ball do the work. That's what a 9-ball pool player does. Let the weight of the white travel around the table for position. So Gary will play more stun shots because that's what you do in the game of snooker. Well, when he won that rack, we did say some sort of break and run or a golden break, and it's 8-7.
Yeah, we also said he'd have to step it up and find his best form, which he hasn't had, to be fair, in this match. Certainly found it for that rack. And look at the body language. It's totally different now. Talk about having a spring in your step. He firmly believes he can still win this one. And he's 1 behind now at 8-7. So let's see what's going on in the other matches in this round. Remember, they're playing to get through to winners qualification. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, we were talking about earlier, he was looking to draw level against Nick Malai. He's done that now. That one's gone 5-all. Naoki Oi is still out there. Christopher Tevez is continuing to make him work for it. It's 8-5 to Oi. Petri Mäkinen just ahead of Antonius Kakaris at 5-4. Mieszko Fortunski going well. 6-3 lead over Aaron Javier Vasquez Paradela.
He's got the 9-ball moving. The 2-ball has hit that red 3 full.
So one other score to give you from the loser side. John Morra from Canada. Very good player who nobody would be surprised to see go very deep in a tournament like this. He's level at 4-all against Ashik Nathwani. You might remember he was the player who led Francisco Sanchez Ruiz 6-0 at the UK Open last year and ended up losing the match, and that really kick-started FSR's run to the final and everything that's followed. So 4-all there. Race to 8 on the loser side, remember. Morra in a bit of a battle to continue his Spanish Open campaign.
Got to get this one right. It's by no means easy. This could be the difference.
There's David O'Cady. He's already safely through to the next round after playing 2 matches yesterday. And he is over with that crowd that's formed on table 3, watching his great mate FSR. They, of course, will be defending the World Cup of Pool for Spain in this very venue from next Tuesday.
So from 8-5, we said Gary's got to win the last 4, didn't we? Aranas has not really played a shot. It's now 8-7. This is the shot he's faced with. Kick safe. And it's gone wrong.
He's had his struggles with this too. You think of those couple of really bad shots he played on it earlier in the match. One really good shot on the 2 here. We could be planning for a deciding rack. Oh, but that's far from what he had in mind. Is that going to be the end of the fight back? Hill now between Riku Rompainen, who's just drawn level at 8-all, and American Hunter Lombardo.
This is very thin. That's why he's not played the pot, but this is not good. He's left the pot. Look at this for a shot. James Aranas has... I know we keep talking about Gary, but he's not played well himself in this match. It's been a real battle for both players. But it's made for an exciting finish. And he's done well there, though. He really has to pot that and just slide past the purple.
Yeah, and having to trust in the table there, playing it at that pace. Saw one roll off on the other side of it earlier that he was quite demonstrative about. Really, he's played that one to perfection.
It's the purple 5 now, what's causing the issues. Needs an angle on this 4 to get back down to the right hand side of the table. Okay, what he's done is he's moved the 7, so the 5 pots in that corner, which it does now. So he's got to pot this ball and try and avoid cannoning the green 6. I think he'll just slide on the inside of it. Oh, he's missed the pot. But he's getting a little bit fortunate in the sense of he's not leaving a hanger. This one does cut, but it's going to be all about the cue ball, this. Can he find a path to land on the 5 ball? He just can't seem to get the job done.
It's turning into one of those matches that just refuses to end. You know, normally if you're 8-5 down in a match and trying to win the last 4 racks, you would feel, right, I can't miss anything, can't make any mistakes from here on in. But really, that was never the task facing Wilson. Because, as you rightly say, Carl, Aranas has been far from his sharpest today. So always the chance that Wilson might be able to throw in 1 or 2 mistakes himself and still have a chance of completing this turnaround. He's 3 balls away from drawing level for the very first time since the start of the match. If you think Gary Wilson's here just to see how it goes and have a good time, spend his evenings in the bar with Carl as he apparently did last night, the look on his face there will tell you a very different story. He's here for the challenge, he's here for the fight, and he's fighting really well at the moment. Gary Wilson has finally got back level. It's 8-all. He'll be breaking on the hill in just a moment. And something else which has finally happened is Francisco Sanchez Ruiz hitting the front on table 3 against Nick Malai. He's just won rack 11 to go 6-5. He's at the table looking to extend that lead in the next. Winner of that will play Riku Rompainen or Hunter Lombardo. They're still playing their deciding rack over on table 6. Naoki Oi has finally got it done. 6-0 up against Christopher Tevez. Peruvian player made a real fight back, but Oi has got the job done at 9-5. And will now play either Jonas Kornmesser or Christian Surdea. And it's the Romanian, Surdea, leading the Austrian 6-3.
There's the handshake, because it's a hill thriller here on the main table. I don't know how we've got here, Michael, but we are. It's Gary Wilson to break in the final rack. And it might be the worst break of the match. He's hit that way too thin. Look at the cluster of balls.
It's a smile that says a lot. It says that he knows he's hit a bad one, but also knows, to a large extent, he's got away with it. What's facing him here, Carl?
Well, big problems, that's what's facing him, because he's the one that's got to play the push out. And other than laying the cue ball over to the left, he's got no real options. It's just a real crazy situation he's involved with. Suppose if he rolls it up to where he was just stood, Gary can't pop the 1 ball, can he? Because the green 6 is in the way, so... And it's called push. Look at that for a push-out. That is unusual. I can only think the 1 and the 3 or the 1 and the 2 can be made as a combo kicking off that left rail. The nature of this arena, the fact that you can just walk around in literally seconds really from one table to another, from one side of the room to the other. People know this is Hill, so everyone's come and stood around this table now because we all love a final rack shootout.
Well, you can see there Taka Wu, the game's leading photographer. You know there's a big story going on if Taka's gone out to get the images which capture the story. Mieszko Fortunski on the hill. There is Taka. 8-3 to Fortunski against Aaron Javier Vasquez Paradela. And Gary Wilson won the World Under-21 Snooker Championship in 2004. There were a lot of players in the field who could do the scoring and the long potting. What set him apart from that field and ended up with him winning the title was the fact that he had the all-round game. He's having to find a tactical side to pull here.
He'll settle for that, let me tell you. He will definitely settle for that.
Remarkable thing about Aranas in this match is he's playing with borrowed cues. His has gone missing in transit, so he's had to borrow from his Philippines teammate for next week's World Cup, Johan Chua.
Well, maybe that tells us a story then, Michael. I see. You're never quite used to the spin of the cue ball and someone else's tip, so... I mean, you always feel like you're going to be okay, but you're never 100%, especially when you've got to start spinning that white around the table.
Yeah, and of course Chua is involved today. In fact, he's, I think, just about to start his match over on table 2, so I guess Chua must have had extra equipment with him. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz starting to take command now. 2 clear for the first time against Nick Malai at 7-5. Winner will play Hunter Lombardo, who's won that Hill finish against Riku Rompainen.
Nicely done there, Mr. Wilson, finding that path. Maybe saving his best rack for the last one, the most important one.
Wilson would take enormous satisfaction from this if he could pull it off when you consider the way he started the match, the fact that he was 8-5 down. He'll be so proud of the way he's dug in. but only if he can finish the job. If he does, could be playing another very established name in the next round, because he would face Mario He if the Austrian can get past Bruno Bernardo. How do you see this one, Carl? What's his best bet?
Not easy, is it? He's just looking if the two rails there. Ken looks like he may just get there. If he's on the right hand side, things can happen. Oh, he's done a good hit there, but he's going to leave Gary a chance here, and this is all you can ask for. It was a good hit, wasn't it?
It was a good hit, but it was a really good tactical shot from Wilson prior to that, and ultimately what it's all resulted in is Wilson forcing for himself the opportunity to add James Aranas to the ever-growing list of big-name pool players he's beaten in big events. So much of the focus now is shifted from the FSR match, because that's turned around in favour of the Spaniard. Now all eyes on this.
Yeah, I think if Gary goes on to knock these balls in, he'll know he's dodged a bullet here, because he's not played well at all. You know, you can't just keep playing like this and winning matches. I think we'll give Aranas the benefit of the doubt. The fact that he's had to borrow cues, not been quite on his game, but he will be bitterly disappointed if Gary goes on to clear the table. 8-5 up he was in this match.
Yeah, when it was 3-0 and Wilson had had a couple of shockers really early on, including that unbelievable 2 he missed right at the start of the match, Aranas might have fancied a short afternoon's work. What we saw early on could not be more in contrast to what has followed. Wilson has dug in. Yes, he's looked really frustrated at times. He's continued to make mistakes throughout the match. But every time it's looked as though Aranas might be killing it off as a contest, Wilson has done enough to stave off that possibility. We did say that he couldn't just keep hanging on, because if you do that for too long, eventually the match is over and you've lost. Had to step things up from 8-5 down. Not a huge amount, but just enough. And to be fair, it's what he's done.
That's worked out okay. Just the fact that he's bumped it a little higher just makes it an easier pot when he gets on the brown 7. Well, one good shot just to get himself nice on the 9, and he's pulled off. An absolute miraculous escape. He's overrun the cue ball a little bit.
Oh, and as a result of that, has he thrown the match away here?
The last few racks where Gary's missed balls, he has not left Aranas a hanger. And what I mean by that is where you just get down and pot it. James is not out of the wood yet. He's got to come with a shot, but this is a shot he never thought he would get. So he's got to be delighted with this chance. Does he cut it in the side, or does he play the bank shot? So tough to tell, Michael. He's behind the shot. Does he float it in the middle or does he play the bank? I believe he's got to play the float into the middle.
Such a tough shot under this amount of pressure. This for the match. And still it goes on. Oh, he's scratched. Well, we've seen everything happen in this contest. We'll see better quality matches than this in the Spanish Open this week, but we might not see one with so much drama and so much incident. Gary Wilson was 3-0 down and all over the place, frankly. A couple of times he got back to one behind, but Aranas kept pulling away. And at one stage he led 8-5. Gary Wilson needed to step it up a gear, and he's managed to do that. It looked as though he'd thrown it away when he missed the 9,